I'm Michael Clark, and you're watching Meet the Farmer TV. Coming up next on Meet the Farmer TV.
Everything I've shown you tonight has come from ancient times where they were doing aquaponics to some of you do some of this stuff. It's just with our little twist on it. For example, when we build our raised beds, we put worms in them. Other people may not inject worms. The reason we put worms in them because we're creating a living biological growing system that just creates and remediates. Worms are remediators, so they're remediating anything bad in the soil. So our whole thing about keeping disease from our plants is to have really healthy soil, and that's what we've been able to do, you know, is to really create this really super soil. And the worms do it for us. We're not doing it, they're our employees. So when people ask me how many employees I have, not just 35, 36, we have 35 billion employees. Nobody's got that many. That's right, we beat Walmart all day.
Meet the Farmer TV is independent reporting to get you the best information about local food and food from the farm to your plate. This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Melli Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design.
Most restaurants want them just like that. We're able to get that product to the restaurants same day. Take them out, put them on ice, deliver them to the restaurants. They clean them themselves. Most chefs today want them that way. They don't want you, if they can get them fresh like that, this is exactly the way they want them.
They aren't further processed, they go whole.
They go whole. We don't have a processing facility on our...
Do you try to get the fish waste back then? Because that's like corn.
Yes, we do collect fish waste. We actually are collecting fish waste from one of the larger fish processors. It's a wonderful material to put in our compost and our other system that you'll see in a minute. Anybody know what those things are? What's that? Slugs. What's that? Escargot. Well, actually, in the Far East, people eat these. These are soldier flies. Some of you have seen those before in your compost, in your waste, if you have animals. They're 42% protein, so we're raising those soldier flies in 55-gallon drums, because that's a supplemental food for the fish and also for our chickens, for our layers. And a lot of scientists have been working on this, and we figured out how to breed these. And they were shocked that we could breed them in Wisconsin in the cold, because they're primarily. This is a 20,000-gallon system, and this is something that maybe you all might think about wanting to do. We dug 2 trenches with our Bobcat, 5 feet deep, 100 feet long, and then we built the hoop house over the 2 trenches, built the system. On the right side, it's heated tilapia. On the left side, 10,000 tilapia. On the right side, 10,000 lake perch. Watercress as filtration. The hot water keeps the entire hoop house warm. It could get down to 20, it could get down to 40 below zero and it won't freeze. Heating a body of water for this amount of square footage, this is a 30 by 100-foot house, 10,000 gallons of water will keep it warm. Okay, and that's been one of the biggest pieces of learning for us, is that thermal mass of warm water is much cheaper to heat than forced air heaters. And I know some of you probably have Modine heaters in your hoop houses, and that thing never shuts down in Wisconsin. It'll cost you a fortune. So we're heating the water with gas, with a swimming pool type heater that heats the water.
What temperature?
85 degrees, because tilapia like to be in 85, 90 degree water temp.
What's the size of the hoop house?
This one is 22 by 100. And the trench is about 5 feet deep, 5 feet wide. It's about 90 feet long. Lined with 45 mil pond liner. And the way we build this is we put 4x4s on pavers. We dig out the trench, put 4x4s, run plywood, you know, on the sides, and then we cross brace it and, you know, brace the top. You can also do this in multiple levels. Because of the height of the hoop house and the angle of the sun, we decided to go with just one level. But you could go 5 levels if you had high enough, and you use artificial light.
How involved are the people that work with you in terms of creative ideas and creative input on all of this?
Oh yeah, we're none of this stuff is new. Everything I've shown you tonight has come from ancient times where they were doing aquaponics to some of you do some of this stuff. It's just with our little twist on it. For example, when we build our raised beds, we put worms in them. Other people may not inject worms. The reason we put worms in them because we're creating a living biological growing system that just creates and remediates. Worms are remediators, so they're remediating anything bad in the soil. So our whole thing about keeping disease from our plants is to have really healthy soil, and that's what we've been able to do, you know, is to really create this really super soil, and the worms do it for us. We're not doing it, they're our employees. So when people ask me how many employees I have, not just 35, 36, we have 35 billion employees. Nobody's got that many. That's right, we beat Walmart all day.
They better too.
What was that question?
White flies and other...
Absolutely, we have white flies. We have aphids. We use yellow and blue sticky traps. This year we had an infestation of, and I'm glad you brought that point up, because one of the things that we have to do, and I am on my staff about all the time, is we have to overproduce. You know, we don't just produce because we have 50 restaurants or 500 weekly CSA market basket customers or wholesalers or grocery stores. We have to overproduce because you never know what's going to happen. As a matter of fact, in the summertime, we grow outside on our 30-acre farm and our other farms in Chicago, our 3 farms in Chicago, but we never shut down our production in the greenhouses simply because we could get a hailstorm. We could get a tornado. We could get any kind of thing. It could be a dry summer. We always have to have product because our competition is not each other as farmers. Our competition are the wholesalers. And I'm going to tell you, those restaurants got to have product. Whether it's 2 weeks old or 4 weeks old, coming from California, they got to have product. So if we don't have it, guess where they're going? So that's who you're in competition with. And when I bring them and show them our infrastructure, I want them to see that we can deliver to them. That's why when they look at our 25,000 pots and our thousands of trays of sprouts and stuff that we sell, I want them to see, those restaurants, that we can deliver to them. Because they know what the wholesalers can do, and we're better than them. You guys know that your product is better than anything coming out of California. We can get it to you, get it to those restaurants in minutes. So it's important for us to understand these things. We have some advantages they don't have, and we have to capitalize on those advantages. And when you talk about farm to school, somebody mentioned farm to school. Well, imagine this. If you're able to be in the same city, big time school district, 48 kitchens, they want our food. Imagine if we get our infrastructure up, we're going to deliver 4,000 meals to 10 schools, okay, with our product. Imagine if we're able to grow, that food is grown in the same city as that school district. So that's very important, to be able to have that food that close, that quick, same day delivery, same day harvest to that account. So that's where we want to get to. That's where we want to be. That's what I call local production farm to school.
Was there a watercress market out there already?
Huge. Huge. Every restaurant, if I came here to Richmond, I could sell watercress to every restaurant in this city. It's delicious. You mix it in your salad mix. Gives a great flavor. It goes in our salad mix. It's a standalone product. It's just wonderful.
You said you overproduce. What do you do with the overproduction?
Oh, great question. What do we do with the overproduction? Can anybody tell him what could we do with that overproduction? And what else? Exactly. And what else? Who said feed the chickens? That's exactly where it goes. Our animals, our ducks, our chickens, our goats. It goes there. Yes, we do have goats, and we do have ducks, and we do have turkeys in the city. Okay. Why can't we do this intensive production at $5 a square foot on your farms? What would stop you from doing that? Anybody tell me what would stop you from doing $5 a square foot? How would everybody here like to grow $5 a square foot on their farm? You could grow on less acreage, less energy. But what do you have to do that? You got to build your soil. Okay. So let me show you what $5 a square foot outside looks like. That's what it looks like. That's how intensive we can plant. Can you do that on your farm, or do you grow 2 by 2? Because this is closer than 2 by 2. Okay?
No room for weeds.
No room for, well, we get weeds, but you know, we got to get rid of them early on. But this is what intensive field production looks like.
How do you plant it?
Broadcast. That's what I do. Takes years to learn how to do that technique.
Are there worms in this system?
Absolutely. Okay, we spread our compost in field production. We do raised beds. If you can use a rotavator or whatever to build your beds or whatever, bed shaper, put the worms in there, put compost in there. But you gotta have compost. Most people underproduce. They say, oh, I want compost, and they have a little pile over there. That's not enough. You gotta grow soil, you gotta grow lots of soil, and more soil, and more soil. And sometimes you may not, if you're going into this business, you may have to spend a couple of years before you plant one plant and grow your soil. Okay, we're fortunate that we have a few thousand yards sitting out on our rural farm site, and we're growing soil every day. As a matter of fact, I have a full-time manager now. It's taken over because this was my thing. And I'm here and I can't be everywhere. So I had to hire somebody. I have composting a young man who loves compost. You got to find somebody who is passionate about this, who loves to get dirty, who's smelly, who will pick it up, who will compost it, who will get on the Bobcat when it's 20, you know, wind chill is 20, and he's out there on the Bobcat moving material around. What's that? Where do we get our seed? Well, we probably buy it from, we do some seed saving. We work with the ethnic community. I've been working with the Hmong community from Laos for many years. My farm manager on my personal farm is a Hmong gentleman. They do a lot of seed saving. To me, they're the best seed savers in the world. These folks can seed save almost anything, because they didn't have the economics to go out and buy when they came here. Nobody would help them, so they grew stuff and they saved the seed, and they have seed banks that are out of this world that nobody knows about. I know about it, though. Yes?
How big do you lay down the compost?
Depends. When we grow on top of asphalt or concrete, we put about 2 feet. When we are in field production, we have I use a manure spreader. Depends on the fertility of the field. When we're growing inside the city, I usually go 18 to 24 inches, 36-inch wide beds, 18-inch pathways between the beds. So I grow everything the same, pretty much the same way. Whether we're in Grant Park in Chicago, or you can see these beds. That's basically how I grow everything, on 36-inch beds, because you know, I have long arms. I could grow on 5-foot beds, because I could go down one and harvest. Most people can only reach about 18 inches in. So 36-inch wide beds are good. If you want to go 30s, that's fine too. But yes.
Do you do crop rotation, or because you add so much compost, does that kind of make the new growth?
Do we do crop rotation? I do crop rotation outside, but inside every one of those pots that we grow in, there are worms in there. And we'll grow the same crop over and over again because the worms are in there remediating, producing more beneficial bacteria and so forth. So we don't necessarily have to rotate, because those plants stay in there sometimes 20 weeks before they reach diminishing returns, and then we'll pull the stuff out, feed it to the tilapia, the chickens, or the ducks, or whatever, and then we reseed. Cover it with worm castings. We're adding compost tea and worm castings to those pots to keep the fertility going.
How wet is that soil? I mean, in terms of normal compost, when it gets a lot of water on it, it gets pretty boggy and wet.
Right. We're able to add lots of water. We overwater. I'd rather overwater than underwater, because a lot of times the plants way up top dry out very fast, especially upcoming this spring with the sun starting to come. So I'd rather have folks overwater than underwater, because we'll lose all that stuff up really quickly if you don't make sure it's well watered, because most people can't see up that high. They think things are growing great. They look inside a pot and there's nothing in there. So it's important. It's the way we set up our compost with carbon and nitrogen. It has a lot of wood chip in there. And of course, wood chip grows fungi. It delivers the nutrient to the root zone. So we got a lot of different material, bigger, chunkier material from the compost in there. Enough food to feed the worms. So this is just some of the product. We grow a lot of, we go to farmers markets, we grow a lot of squash blossoms, we go to markets in Chicago. Very productive markets. A lot of the markets, you know, on a given day, you'll do $4,000 or $5,000 of sales on some of those markets in Chicago, in Daly Plaza and some of the Green City Market, the organic market that we go to in Chicago.
Take these squash blossoms at 1 o'clock in the morning?
No. We pick them in the morning. And they last till the next day. You know, we have refrigeration. Normally we take a refrigerated truck to the field. That's another thing as small farmers, we have to set up infrastructure to be able to keep our crops. And really small farmers, I usually have them buy those large coolers, put ice in them, and it acts as for their tender stuff that they have to preserve until the next day market. So year-round production. We're able to grow inside hoop houses. Here's an example. This is in the wintertime in Milwaukee. You can see the snow on the greenhouse. We cover the beds when it gets down to 25 or below. There's no conventional heating system. There's compost heating this greenhouse. And the compost is made up. You can see the piles. If you look at the lower frame, you can see there's 4 piles of compost, 150-degree temperature coming off of those piles. Underneath these beds, there's compost, fresh compost, and on top of that, there's finished compost that the plants grow in. So you can see in every one of these hoop houses, we have compost. That's a renewable energy. I consider that a renewable energy source to heat greenhouses. Spinach grows great in our climate in the wintertime and inside the greenhouses. Vertical growing is happening using vertical space, a lot of watercress.
So you just have the piles of compost in the corners, and the heat coming off of those keeps the greenhouse warm enough up to 25 degrees, then you cover.
Yeah, when I have to pay attention to the weather. And if it's going to be 25 or below, I cover. Old greenhouse plastic. We use 9-gauge wire hoops every 3 feet to keep the plastic off the plants, and we cover. We cut the plastic wide enough to fit in the aisles, and each 36-inch bed has its own cover. We open it up during the day and to let air in, because if you don't let air in, you'll get mold buildups and so forth. We only water when it gets inside temperature during the day is 50 degrees. So we water in the morning, so we're not creating ice block at night when the greenhouses cool off. So you have to, when it's at that 50-degree temperature at about, say, 11 o'clock in the day, we water. So we don't have to water a lot in the wintertime because you get condensation buildup inside the tunnels. So moisture stays, it stays moist. We cut throughout the winter. You can grow about 25 different types of greens in that way. So inside the greenhouse, we grow lettuce, and we're using the vertical space, and then we grow we turn over 1,000 trays of sprouts, sunflower sprouts, spicy sprouts, that we market to our restaurants. So that space is $30 a square foot annually. So the more of that stuff we can grow, if you could grow just sprouts, you can make a fortune. If you had that many customers that would take your sprouts, because you're turning that stuff over every week. That tray, we grow that in coir, coconut fiber, and worm castings. So you're looking for a quick jump, and the taste is unbelievable. Our wheatgrass, we pretty much supply all of Milwaukee with wheatgrass. All the accounts that want wheatgrass, we grow, because wheatgrass grown in worm castings tastes better than any other wheatgrass. I'm going to show you that in a second.
Can I ask if you have rodent problems in your greenhouses?
Not in our greenhouses. And the reason we don't is that we bury wire around the exterior of our greenhouses, because whenever you're doing composting, you're going to have some rodent. But we also have built our bins now with 1/4-inch screening in all of the bins.
How deep does your wire go?
It just goes down about 6 inches. Yeah. And once the ground gets frozen, they have a tough time. You're not going to have a problem with rodents during the summer. They got lots of choices of food out there. Yes?
Do you have a double layer of plastic?
Do we have a double layer? Absolutely. We do not inflate it. We don't inflate our plastic, but we do use a double layer. In one hoop house, we have a triple layer.
How often are you replacing your plastic?
Probably every 4 or 5 years.
You separate the
No.
Is it clear or milk?
Is it what?
Poly clear?
It's 6 mil greenhouse poly. Standard greenhouse poly. What's that?
18% light.
Yeah, something like that. If you say so. I don't know. Oh, okay.
Compost tea. How and how do you apply it?
Okay, compost tea. Oh, do we have compost tea? The way that we built our new worm system, the one that you see, the hydroponics above, we have in-ground storage, and we have gutters. When we water the worm bins, the tea leaches into the bottom, goes into a gutter, goes into a 55-gallon system. We have a 100-gallon capacity on each side. Then we use an inline pump and pump it to a 250-gallon tank. We aerate it, and then we use it on our plants. Or we circulate it back through the worm bins. And that makes the worm bins more, biological, more microorganisms that the worms can process. So that's how we use it. We also make tea out of every 5 pounds of worm casting produces 25 gallons of compost tea. We use a painter's screen and put it into a 5-gallon bucket of water, and overnight, between 24 and 48 hours, then we add 25 gallons of water to that. Yes, we do aerate. Yeah. Yeah, we have aeration. We have a central aeration system throughout the whole facility that we have air going into our fish systems as well as into our tea. So this is how you do it. Using vertical space. Every bit of space is very valuable. And then we harvest. And this is a workshop where we're teaching folks how to harvest sprouts. We use knives to cut them. Then they go into a wash. And then they go into a high-tech spinner that we have.
I have a question. You say you need all the vertical space, but you have round containers. Would it be better to have rectangular containers?
Well, probably, but a lot of these containers, because I'm a big proponent of using what's available. I had thousands of round ones. That's what I use. And if I got to go out these, and we just started buying them. I try to catch sales at our greenhouse supplier, which I have a 30-year relationship with. They donate a lot of stuff at the end of their sales. I have to take what they give us. We do have some square ones, but basically we're not trying to go out and buy. We're not in a position. These pots cost $2 a piece that we do buy. The soil that we have in those greenhouses is valued. If you had to replicate what we're doing, you have to have a check. Give me a check for $200,000 just for the soil, not counting the seed, not counting the pots. So this is an expensive proposition that you don't do overnight. It's along a continuum to get there, but a lot of it is you have to use the resources that you can find. You know, we're recyclers. Besides farmers, we're great recyclers. We're using stuff that we don't want to go into the landfill, that we can reuse. Yes?
Don't you have trouble with the higher pots shading lower pots?
You would think we do, but we really don't. The angle of the sun, we move those pots around a lot. A lot of people say, why don't you put automatic waterers system, which would cost a fortune. We hand water everything. We move those pots a lot. We really don't have a light issue. We do have some artificial light we've added over the years. If you went there tonight, there would be lights on.
Also, you think that if you, since you have the round pots, there will be light getting down between them that where the square pots are completely included. So that might be helping with that. In fact, you've got the round pots.
Yeah.
Now you're more layering.
Yeah, I haven't done a study on round versus square, but it's working, whatever the round pots are working. And like I said, it's an economic reason that we're using the round ones because they were available and people donate. People donate us, like, for example, at the end of the landscape season, the landscapers bring us pots because they don't reuse the same pots.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of Meet the Farmer TV. This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Melli Productions, and Leslie B. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design.